What's up, all my fellow otakus? The When They Cry After Show is back with the eye-opening chapter. Time resets, and Shion is not as innocent as we thought she was. We finally meet the mysterious Satoshi, and speaking of Satoshi, we have a special guest in studio. Don't go get spirited away, because there's a lot to discuss.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, all you anime fans out there, thank you again so much for tuning into the When They Cry After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. There we go. We're just so excited over here. I'm Veronica Valencia, and all the way around the corner over there, we got...
Hey guys, I'm Jamie.
And as I mentioned, we have a special guest in studio. We have the voice of Satoshi himself, Daryl Gilbo. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And, this is your arc, too. We finally meet you. We've been hearing about you all this entire series, but, we've never met you at all.
I know. I haven't even met myself.
But now we will. Coming up later in the show, obviously, we're going to be talking all about this chapter. We're going to be talking about Shion's first love, or should we say her obsession with Satoshi, as well as her, tough spirits towards Satoko. We'll also be discussing her relationship with her twin sister Mion, and basically just getting this entire story from her point of view because we didn't see it beforehand. But before we get into any of that, Jamie, I kind of want to get your overall thoughts, and then Daryl, I kind of want to talk to you about, how you went about creating and voicing this character. Okay. But Jamie, first, your overall thoughts.
Yeah, overall, it was definitely a whirlwind because, it's the Mion Shion. Shion has gone completely bonkers. And I like that we get to meet Satoshi because, we had been wondering all the entire season, who is he? I like his character. I like, that I'm still always who is the culprit here? Because I would blame Rika, and then I would blame, Satoshi and Mion and all of them. So I think that it's all coming full circle. As confusing as it was, I liked the development. I like that we finally get why Shion acts like this. And, I thought it was great.
Yeah. I kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Jamie. I liked this arc because, we know that this series is told in arcs. I thought that this was what the series was going to be, the same story just told from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And, after seeing this arc, I was like, okay, I could have gotten behind that idea because I thought seeing it from Shion's point of view really put things in perspective, Mm-hmm. Daryl, but how was it, coming into this series? You kind of come in midway through the season. Yeah. And so how did the directors basically tell you about this?
It's a lot of it, even for me, voicing it was still clouded in mystery, actually. I was mostly explained about what my character was like, how his parents had died, and now I don't want to give anything away, so I'm going to be careful what I say, I guess.
You can give stuff away.
Because I know it's an older anime. Okay.
We've seen this arc, so we know what happened.
I just don't know about these people out here.
It's okay.
Okay. I knew his parents, his stepfather and mother were killed. And that he feels really responsible for his sister. So really, that's the basis mm-hmm. of what I had to start with, mm-hmm. was knowing that there was this overprotectiveness, and that they were also going through a lot of abuse in the with the aunt and the uncle. Mm-hmm. So I was taking it, I guess, from that perspective, and then of course as the show progresses, when I meet Shion. What's the other character's name?
The Mion?
Yeah, Mion. I always get, well, it's easy to get them confused.
They are twins.
They are twins, and, my character was very confused many times. Then it was it seemed very innocent at first, when you meet them. So I really had no idea what was really happening until, later. So in a way, it was kind of good for me as an actor because my character really didn't know either. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I did it until, of course, we get to something later on, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into some of the stuff that happens later on, but I'm very curious when we get to that point.
Yes.
I'm very curious to see what you think happens to your character, because there's a lot of speculation.
Yes, I know. That's a big thing for me. Now, let me ask you. Okay, I have to admit, I told you guys earlier, I did bring cheat sheets.
That's fine,
Because it's been so long since I've done it. to remember. So I do have one question for you guys.
Okay.
We know that we meet Satoshi, right?
Yeah.
In this time, and I can't remember recording it, but somebody said that his voice was in an earlier episode about something.
I don't remember
Is that
I don't
wrong?
remember
Am
that
I
either.
wrong? I'll find it. So talk amongst yourselves, and then
Yeah.
He was just like a mystery from
He
what I
was.
remember.
Right.
I don't remember a voice.
And I was curious about it because I was like, is that true?
If it was a voice, it would probably be like a voice in Mion's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, or she.
But I wonder if
both.
I recorded that, because if somebody even out there knows, I would.
Oh,
love
so I'm
that.
sure someone out there
Yeah.
does know. Like, we get
Oh,
really deep in
okay.
anime.
Before it's
fine.
Kaichi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Before Kaichi attacks Teppei, he says, "Let's go, Satoshi." After this, Satoshi actually heard saying, "Yeah." It says it's probably like a hallucination. So, or was that after?
It would either have to be a hallucination or
Was it-
like an afterthought. Like it would be
Okay.
a thought in someone's mind.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
the only way I could hear.
But it wasn't
Satoshi's
before you
voice.
meet Satoshi, right? It's like after you meet Satoshi.
I mean, we haven't gone into the next arc yet.
Okay, so maybe it's in that.
So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Possibly.
confused.
It's
Anyway,
okay.
It's okay.
I'll learn a lot today.
Mion and Shion confused us.
Right.
This entire arc. So.
If just so everyone knows, we do have a live chat going.
Yes.
Great.
We want to get some shout outs. Sharka Frank is actually saying hi, Daryl.
Hi, Shark Frank. How are
Hey.
you?
And so, yeah, if you can
Thanks for saying
solve
hi.
this mystery, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the
Yes.
comments on both YouTube and iTunes, because we kind of want to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Yes.
But before we get to the bottom of it, let's kind of just go right into kind of how this starts. And so basically, Shion experiences her first love, or what I
Yeah.
really like to call first obsession, because it's not healthy.
She is definitely obsessed. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But she's so into him because, like, he comes to her rescue and she becomes, like, infatuated. Like, oh, what is this guy? Tell me more about him. And then we basically, as you were kind of saying, Daryl, that he has a lot of the weight of the world on his
Yeah.
shoulders, basically, because he is taking care of Satoko, who's, facing the burden of all this abuse from
Right.
her family.
Right.
What? I don't like how Shion approached this whole thing.
I mean, come on. Here's the thing. Like, if you're trying to get to the guy, you need to be nice to his sister.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like she took all of her life's frustrations. It's like she's jealous of her sister. She's jealous of a little girl.
Right.
So just her expressing that emotion, I was like, honey. So, yeah, I thought her approach could have definitely been a lot better. And I think that she was taking on a burden herself for Satoshi because she wanted him so bad. And I think she just lost herself, literally. She almost got spirited away again,
Yeah.
with this situation.
Yeah.
Did that scene take place in a classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah.
when she picked up the desk, I was
Right.
like, someone stop
Right.
her.
Yeah,
Please.
exactly.
It's just, it's kind of sad because before this chapter, we obviously see, we got the arc with Satoko and basically, the really her tragic backstory of everything that she was facing. So while Satoshi, yes, may be facing a lot of, it might be taking a toll on his health to always be there for her, like Satoko is also really taking a lot of pain too. And so they're kind of they're both in a very bad place. And it was just kind of, I thought it was incredibly wrong for Shion to just go in there and kind of think it was all Satoko's fault. Because it's clear,
Right.
it's
Right.
not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, because she didn't put herself in that situation. I mean, it's the brother and sister are thrust into it, and it's Satoshi. I think he feels also this helplessness because he's the only one in his mind, the only one that can protect his sister, And even if something happens to him, who's going to be there for her,
Right.
And I think his mind is always on her.
Yeah.
Almost all the time. So he can't even hardly think about himself.
I mean, it makes sense though. Like they have to process it, and him being the older brother, he's probably trying to step into the father role, and they're
Right.
all each other has. Like
Yeah.
that's all they have. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Daryl, this series touches on some very tough topics.
Oh yeah.
So I was gonna say, what was it like, kind of, when you were in the booth and this scene played back for you, and you had to watch it and figure out, oh gosh, like this is what my character's going through. How was that experience for you?
those are my favorite characters to play, actually, are the ones that...
Troubled.
Oh, the Troubled. I love it, love it, love it. You know, I mean, because I'm a trained actor, and I love to delve into who a person is, what makes them tick, you know, and when it plays back, I mean, actually, you know, you feel it. I felt it when I'm doing the things that Satoshi was saying, you know, because you have to put yourself in that place, too, you know. So sometimes it is like a little like, oh, wow. You know, you're kind of taken aback after you see it that, oh, okay, hopefully I caught that emotion, you know. Sometimes there's some subtleties, but yeah. And then, of course, you know, you don't know what's going to happen with your character's arc. So you don't know what emotional pitches they're going to hit or what, you know, how they're going to change. You know, is his life going to get better? I have no clue. Is it going to get worse? How bad is it going to get? So, of course, we know.
Yeah, we know how it ends, but
exactly.
There's also something, you know, on top of the tragedy that's happening with Sadako, there's also something else plaguing Satoshi, and it's the fact that he feels like he's being followed, like the
Right.
footsteps Rika was
Paranoia.
explaining to Shion. What were all of our kind of initial reactions with this? Like, did we think, because there's been this thing of like, we think there's a curse of Oyashiro, but we also
Right.
think that a family, one of the three families, might be behind it.
Right.
When this was brought up, did it seem like, okay, there might be a curse, or this is just like in his head, like his health is deteriorating?
You know, I kind of took it at, well, and it could, to me, it could be both. That, and I say both in terms of is his health deteriorating and is it real? It's almost like if your health is deteriorating, you're becoming paranoid or you're becoming a little unstable. If you hear those footsteps, they are real. Or was he being gaslighted? You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the footsteps are real, and yet he thinks he's going crazy. You know, I mean, without him even saying it.
Just
you
like
know?
Kaiichi, how he felt he was going crazy. Although I do feel like they were real. Like, wait,
Yeah.
and also, was it Rika or was it Rina?
Oh, it was Reina.
It was Rina? Okay, because I was just making sure. But when she said it, like, the voice actor, I mean, she played her amazingly, like, because it creeped me out literally just listening to her, how she just went into that so quickly. So, phenomenal job to all the voice actors. Yeah.
Thank you. I do think it's real, though. I like this.
I think it's real,
the
too.
thought of him actually, you know, even though I think a lot of people think it was just his paranoia, but I like the idea of thinking that was really real.
Yeah.
And it's hard because from this particular part of the arc, I felt like it was kind of a Romeo and Juliet type story between Shion and Satoshi, even though like neither of them were actually trying to be together.
Right.
Just because it's like, you know, he's the part of the Hojo family, the cursed family,
Yes.
the rivals or the betrayers basically of the town. And she's part of the Sonozaki family.
Right.
And they're one of the three heads, and they were totally against the dam project. But Shion's also like the black sheep of the family because she was a twin and she wasn't supposed to be born.
Right.
So this entire relationship was kind of just funny to see it from that perspective, even though it was a one-sided love, technically.
And I think he's kind of clueless because I don't think he has any room inside of him to let anyone in.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because I was wondering that, you know, since they had, you know, told you all about Shion, like, how did you approach that? Did you approach it like, well, maybe he is fond of her but doesn't know how to express that, you know, but I guess he was clueless?
I think I did sort of approach it that way, as well as, again, that how can he let anyone else in? You know, because, again, it's all about protecting his sister because of everything. So his guard is always up. You know, and even when he's sort of being, you know, because Satoshi's a nice guy, you know, sometimes, right? I mean, he gets pushed to his limit. But he is a really nice guy, but his guard is up. And I think it's hard for him to let Shion in or anyone else because everything else that's coming at him is danger.
Especially with the desk. I mean, I don't think you're
right. And then
to
you
be
see
around
that, and it's like, whoa, can I let that into my orbit?
Well, like speaking of letting that into that orbit, it seems like it's possible because then he calls up, quote unquote, Mion, who he thinks it is, and is basically like telling her, like, I'm sorry, that was not cool of me, you know, I was out of line, and I'm like, no, you weren't.
No, yeah,
No, you weren't.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and again, I think that is his his dualistic nature, right? Where he has to be fierce in protecting his sister, but then he is such a nice guy, and I think he second guesses, did I get too out of control? Did I do too much to try and protect her?
And maybe it's also because he doesn't want to be alone.
Right.
You know, like after losing his parents and he literally only has his little sister, like he's scared to make friends, he's scared to fall in love. So I think he's trying to hold on to like any little ounce of anything he can find.
Right, exactly.
It sucks.
Sucks to be Satoshi.
It sucks, and he doesn't. You know, it's really taking a toll too, because it's like he can't even have like a normal life. He wants to quit the baseball team too.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot to deal with, and as you were kind of saying, Daryl, like, he gets pushed to his limits because he decides to pull a Keiichi and kill the ant.
Right.
I don't know if like when you went into the studio and you saw that scene, if they told you in a previous arc, it was basically the same thing. Like Keiichi killed the uncle with the baseball bat.
Right. They told me nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
So that day, I was probably having a great day, la 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 la, and I go into the studio and I have to have a monstrous breakdown and murderous, episode and kill my aunt. But it was like, whoa, okay. That was fun.
That's what I was wondering. Was that fun for you?
Oh, it was so fun.
It was a blast.
Oh my God, it was a blast. But again, in the midst of that, it's a blast because you're totally getting into it. Like you really have to draw up all that hate, all that hatred, to do that act. So.
Yeah.
But I will. Can I tell you something?
Yes. Yes.
So after I do that scene and he runs away, I look to the director, who was Christy Reed. She directed the English version. I just turned over and I said, "He comes back, right?" And she looked at me. She went, "Oh, are you kidding me? Because that means I'm out of work."
I know, it's like a double
Right, it's
whammy.
a double.
I feel like this series in particular is so crazy because I feel Satoshi plays such a big role in this entire series, but we never see him.
Right, but he's very limited, really, in the series, and yet, because I still have people come up, and I mean, even when I sort of announced that I was going to be doing this today, a lot of people who know me for other voices, responded back, "You were Satoshi," or I get that a lot. They didn't know that I did that voice as well. And again, it's because he was sort of the beginning of a lot of stuff that causes all these things to happen. So,
Yeah. It's always a pleasant surprise, though, like whenever I find a voice actor who's done multiple voices, it's like they're happy still.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, I can't believe I love doing him and he's not coming back. Are you kidding?
know.
That's the worst thing for a voice actor is when your character runs away, leaves, dies.
Something happens,
something
and you
happens,
don't get to
you're-
come back.
Right, and you're like, come on, I want to be in the show some more. Give me another character.
give me a flashback.
Right,
something.
exactly.
Give me an alternate
Exactly.
scene, please.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, basically, right before he goes to kill the ant, Satoshi tells Shion, like, oh, can you take care of Satoko?
Right.
And I don't know about your initial thoughts, but I kind of got the impression of, like, maybe he also thinks that his time is coming because he's so believing that he is cursed and that Oyashiro is going to get him. And so this is kind of like his one last act, and he doesn't want Satoko to be around it when, the ant dies, but also when he gets spirited away.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys had that thought either.
No, I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you believe it, the more it could possibly, that curse could be true. And maybe I'm just being paranoid, but like, not to bring it away from anime, but like movies like The Skeleton Key, I don't know if you guys saw it.
Oh, no.
But they're like,
No.
if you,
I know.
it's so
Yeah.
good. But they're like, if you believe it, then it's going to happen. So I think that's the thing about curses.
Well, and I like that too because when someone is going through a lot about themselves emotionally or all this negativity, right? You're gonna take on that curse, because I know he believed it that probably was what was gonna happen because he looked at his life probably as cursed, So why wouldn't this curse also be upon his own curse? You know what I mean? That he's cursed. Is this his destiny almost to be doomed?
Yeah.
So I think even that's what sort of sets him off in that final act.
It was a lot,
It gets-
too, guys.
It does get
was
a lot.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
When does Shion pretend to be her sister?
That's in like the next two.
Oh, okay. wait.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Okay.
We're going to talk
Okay,
about
I'm
it
just
all.
curious.
We're going to talk about it all. So basically, And what happens next is Shion has to distinguish herself or like make penance for liking Satoshi,
Right,
which I thought was very weird. Which also brings us to what I like to call the infamous fingernail scene.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the
I
one.
can't.
Before
I'm
I
touching my
ever
fingers
watched
now.
this series, that was the only scene I ever knew about was like the
Me too,
fingernail
yeah.
scene.
Before I mean, as myself, because I only knew my characters' scenes. That's the one everyone talked about afterwards. Like, oh, the fingernail scene.
And I wasn't expecting the close-ups either. Like, they're very
Yeah.
subtle every now
Yeah.
and then with some of the gore, but I was like, I just did not expect that. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also just dragged on, which is
Yeah.
probably why it's like so recognized in people's minds. But yeah, so she basically has to distinguish herself to, you know, be like, I support this family, I'm okay, and
Right.
everything. And it's kind of like a weird dynamic between her and her sister, because it's like one minute you look at them and they're like, oh, they're very supportive of each other, but then Mion is like, well, I have to do what the family tells me to do, and you have to do this
Exactly.
now. They have a very interesting
Very
relationship. It's
interesting.
like, and I feel like Mion has an on and off switch, like kind of how Shion was saying she had a demon. I feel like Mion also has a demon and an on
I
and
felt
off
like
switch.
they were both possessed too. That's why it was so confusing too, just trying to differentiate the two. Like, I think they were both spirited away.
And so Shion thinks everything is going to be okay, but then the next morning she finds out that Satoshi has disappeared.
Her world's crumbling.
Her world is crumbling. And now, okay, so I want to present you guys with 3 questions, because
Okay.
these are the 3 things that I thought could possibly happen.
Okay, if we answer all 3 right, what do we win?
All right, is there a prize?
Snaps and claps.
Okay. okay, that's
I don't
it.
got anything cool.
I'm competitive. Very well, so.
All right.
There's
So,
no buzzer. We can buzz in.
Yeah.
well,
break
it
the
was just
table.
more like in reference to his disappearance. Did you think either the Sonozakis had something to do with it, like they were the ones making up the curse and they quote unquote spirited him away? Did you think it was actually a real supernatural curse and it was Oyashiro, or do you think Satoshi ran out of guilt, or didn't want to be he was basically on the run because he was suspected in the aunt's murder? 3 possible reasons why he could be gone. That was what came into my head.
Okay, well, mine are the latter 2. So I thought okay, maybe he ran away because he was scared about someone following him, so he's trying to get out. And also because, with him killing his aunt, he's trying to run for cover. But I also thought it was the Oyashiro curse because that's what we've been used to this entire season. So I was like, maybe he, ran away to hide, and then the curse, spirited him away. So, yeah. I always have far-fetched predictions. Yeah.
Honestly, they could be very
Yeah.
real.
One day they
Nothing
will
is
be.
ever like clearly stated in this
No.
series.
Yeah.
No. I thought maybe he jumped over into the Sailor Moon series. No?
Moon Prison
No.
Power.
Okay, no, I
Moon
just,
Prison
anyway.
Power.
Okay. No, actually, well, because of voicing it, at first I thought it was just sort of the normal thing that he was a fugitive, that he didn't want to get caught for doing what he did, and the guilt as well for doing such a heinous thing, and maybe not even trusting himself with his sister anymore just because of he's able to murder. I don't know. But then, and again, like I said, I just thought he left and was hoping one day he'd come back. But as I've gotten to know the series a little more, I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces. One day I'm going to watch it. It dawned on me that, well, maybe it is that curse because that seems to fit, the whole theme of the series. But I don't know if we should know or not know. I mean, obviously the writer had a reason for not,
Yeah.
right? For
You think.
where's the writer? Let's talk to him, the producer.
I kind of thought it was definitely the family that had something to do with it, and they were just kind of
Okay.
hiding behind Oyashiro's curse, because it kind of like Shion makes a really good point of like the world is out to get the Hojos, and the only thing Satoshi ever did wrong was being born a Hojo,
Right.
which is very
Right.
true. Like he was dealt a very terrible
Yeah.
hand, and it's just because of the trickle effect of what happened with his parents.
Right.
And so I thought it was definitely like they're just out to get them for whatever reason. And I don't know if it was like punishment for Shion liking a
Right.
Hojo boy, that they were like, we need to get rid of him. And, he's also a Hojo, so it gives
Yeah.
us even extra reason to try and get this kid out of our way.
Yeah.
Well, then it is her fault, because if she wasn't obsessing over him so much, maybe he'd still be alive. But that's a good point. Yeah. What do you think?
Or he ran away and he started a breakfast chain restaurant called Hojo's.
Get your Hojo snack.
Alternate storyline. I would watch it.
Storyline.
Get your Hojos.
Get your
Get your
Hojo's.
Hojos.
Isn't that terrible?
Hey, whatever.
It also just kind of raises questions. After watching this arc, it also kind of raises
Yeah.
questions of like how Satoko, I mean, don't get me wrong, like she has her own stuff, her own pain that she's dealing with, but it's kind of interesting to look back and see how she's the only one in a way saved from the curse, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Where does the scene come in, or was it only in like manga or something, where he's in a clinic or something, a hospital with the uncle? Is it the uncle who put him there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember
No.
that.
Might be
Maybe
next
Maybe it's
arc.
Maybe the
later.
next
Okay,
arc.
because yeah, it's it's really hard. It's like when you know your character's in it but has no lines.
We saw
Oh,
we saw Shion in the hospital, like with her fingers
Oh,
wrapped,
okay.
right? That was
Oh.
Shion.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was like in her bed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
oh,
nice.
those that lovely thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharka Frank in the chat is saying
Yes.
they always felt Satoshi ran away because of guilt, feeling guilty.
Okay.
See,
Yeah,
yeah.
I kind of felt that in the beginning.
And the spirit
so,
got him.
Yeah. Maybe it's both. I mean, it could be.
It could be
well,
a culmination of
yeah.
all those things, you know, like maybe he just needed to get out, that was his last deed, and he left, but then at the same time it's also kind of sad
yeah.
if that's the case, because
Oh,
then
yeah.
he did totally just leave Satoko behind,
Right.
and knowing what happens to her.
Yes.
And you wouldn't think that he would do that on purpose as much as he
Right.
cared about his sister. So
Unless he just totally had a total mental breakdown and
Very well possible. I mean, he did,
Yeah.
in a sense.
well, yeah, he did. He did.
And so then we kind of flash forward a year, basically, you know, Satoshi's gone, no one has ever been able to find him. Shion goes to start investigating, you know, the relationship between the disappearances and the Sonozaki family, and we meet Miss Takano again. Do you remember at all, Miss Takano?
I
She's very
don't.
creepy.
yes,
Really?
she is.
I
The
don't.
eyes.
She's very creepy.
Mhm.
I don't know if she's like meant to be Oyashiro in a body.
Yeah, like in human form.
Yeah.
Or maybe like an assistant or something, because it's like Rika, like what's her position in this too, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's hard to
But
say.
how does she show up? Who's like? What is
She
her?
just, her whole thing is like she's a nurse, or she's supposed to come in as a nurse, but she has all this knowledge of the village, and starts telling Shion a story about the demons, and you know how the demons would come down and eat the humans, and you know their intestines would
Right.
go down the river, which is the cotton drifting festival and all this stuff. But she always is very creepy with her knowledge.
Right.
And her whole thing
do
is
you
like
know
she
this?
dies in every arc that she's in. She dies because she's a victim of the curse.
Ah,
But she just raises suspicions because she's so creepy.
yeah.
So, I don't know. I think she's. I don't know if she's necessarily Oyashiro, but she is not of this world.
At
That is
all, at all.
100% true. And so, obviously, after this whole thing, Shiona's having a really hard time with Satoshi being gone. Daryl, do you think there ever could have? I know this is not. I know this is not that type of series, but could there have ever been a chance between Satoshi and Shion? You think?
I think so. I definitely think so. I mean, I think you know, I don't think if he wasn't interested in her, he wouldn't have been hanging around with her. You know,
Yeah.
there was a reason that somehow they came together.
But he thought he was hanging out with Mion.
That's
He
true.
never
Always
met
liked
Shion.
Mion.
That is true. That is true. I was going to say that too. But still, it was her. You know what I mean? Even though he thought it was Mion, it was still her. So
Her
even if maybe
quirks.
he would have found out that, wait a minute, you're Shion,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it would have hit on him that, you know, I get along with her, I still like her, even
Yeah.
though she isn't who I thought she was. I don't know. It's possible. Or maybe he'd freak out.
She really thinks
Yeah.
that if things were different at a soft,
Yeah.
especially Satoko, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. If Satoko wasn't in the picture,
Right,
her
that she
and Satoshi
would have been
would
together.
Be, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she's
maybe
completely
Mion actually would have been together with him if she didn't, because she was interested too, right?
It seemed like it.
It seemed like
But
she
she
made that
kind of,
like.
but she kind of just said, "Well, my sister's interested." So
Which is a good sister. I do feel like Shion and Satoshi could have been a good couple because
Yeah.
I mean they've killed people. So, like, they're a match made. They both killed people. They both have siblings.
Families that
sometimes
kill
get on their
together
nerves.
stay together.
Exactly. Couple goals.
Terrible.
Sorry. I'm awful. Ignore me.
Oh my god.
I mean, at least they could find ways to forgive each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
In that
true.
sense.
And she's obsessed, so it's like she loves him, you know?
Yeah. Well, if she
thinks
thinks
she loves him.
She
him.
thinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, it also kind of poses another question of like, her attraction to him was so instant.
Yeah.
Was it just like my knight in
Why?
shining armor, or like
Right.
because when she comes in, you know, she had been sent away to school. We know that she was like the black sheep of the family, you know, the twin that wasn't supposed to be born. So was it the fact that someone just treated her nicely for once in her life?
Did she know he was a Hojo at first? Okay, because
No.
I couldn't
Yeah.
remember that part.
I would just say it was just her age. She's young. She's, you know, probably the first guy that she really likes. She
Right.
mistakes it for love.
Right.
And it's obsession. Yeah. She's crazy.
She's very crazy.
She's cray cray.
So crazy. And, you know, she's so crazy to the point that, like, it starts to become, you know, we think a year has passed, she's kind of, whatchamacallit, she's kind of
Moved on.
not necessarily moved on, she'll never move on,
Right.
let's be real. But she's kind of been able to cope
Right,
with
I
him
see.
being gone.
Right.
And then out of nowhere, it kind of comes back because she starts to question the family, but then it comes back because Mion opens up to her about how she likes Keiichi.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
I
like,
do know
gosh,
about that.
dang it, Keiichi.
Like him too?
Yeah.
It's a lot. I hate that they have this sibling rivalry, but also I want to I'm wondering what's gonna happen with them. Is like, are they gonna fight to the death too, like in this next arc, either Shion and Mion? Like, would we ever see that?
It's possible. I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Me either. Not in that part.
Like I said, far-fetched predictions.
Could happen in
It
this
could.
series because it's so
Yeah.
bonkers and
Because
out of
it's
this
just,
Yeah,
world.
I feel like it's all
exactly.
now down to Shion, and I feel like it leads back to her in this full circle moment. So I want to see, like, if they're gonna fight it out, what's gonna happen? Yeah.
Well, this whole next part of this story, or this arc, actually, is just her trying to avenge Satoshi because she truly believes in her heart that the Sonozaki family had him killed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's kind of where I was going for at this point, too. And it makes it really seem like that's the case. And Shion gets a little cray-cray, and she, like, starts getting revenge on the grandma, which that was very
Yeah.
gruesome.
Yeah.
This arc in particular, I thought was extra gruesome.
Yeah, and I was just like, wait, why? But yeah, with the grandma, it was just crazy to see her kicking her. And I was like, wait, why is she not moving? I would think, like, with her kick, she would have fallen off by then. But yeah, and the fact that she was already dead, it was just crazy.
But don't you think that they did that on purpose? That because, you know, I think the show kind of doesn't start out that way.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? That there's like this progression of violence, progression of what you see. You know, of it gets more
Gets
and
worse
more,
and
and
worse,
worse
yeah.
and worse and worse and worse. You know, and and I think it's meant to shock, right?
Yeah,
Like,
oh, for sure.
yeah. Well, not yeah, of course. But I think that's maybe what they were doing too. Is that each thing gets like more and more and more and more. You know, with the grandma. Because even with my character, you don't really see so much of the bashing, right? With
No.
the bat, you don't see. You know
just
what I
see
mean?
The blood
You see the
splatter,
blood
yeah.
supply, and you hear the force and all. You know, and like.
That's enough.
Right, and actually being able to voice that it was great because it wasn't like a gun, right, where you just
Yeah.
shoot and the person's dead, but you have a bat, and you're having to physically emote all that rage through that bat. You know, that bat becomes your rage. You know, so it's different than just like killing someone with a gun, let's say, or maybe strangling them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How did you voice act that out? Like, did you have anything in your hand, or were you just, like, how did you motion that out?
from what I remember, it's just like a lot of body. You know, use your body, but for me, it was mostly emotion. Just being able to somehow tap into that place
Yeah.
that has that much rage, you know, to do it, because you have to feel it. You can't just like, okay, I'm gonna go kill someone.
Ah.
You know, you're dead. I'm gonna kill you. You know,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like being in the moment. I
Yeah.
guess is like the whole thing with acting, right? Being in the moment with even that script, and regardless if it's voiceover or not, you know, you have to be in that moment with it and believe that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you have a reason, and you're right to do it.
Right.
So.
Do you think, how do I put this? Do you think Keiichi is kind of a substitute for Satoshi in the sense?
I do. I mean, I don't know the fullness of Keiji, but I do know that they never meet, he and Satoshi.
No.
Yeah.
He comes in like a year after
Right.
Satoshi's been gone.
So I do think that he does sort of, and there's another dude, right, too, who gets, or maybe he hasn't come in yet. I think he gets mistaken because he looks a little bit like my character, like Satoshi.
Oh, okay, I don't think we've
Okay, I think that's later. Does someone know?
Does
out
someone
there
tell
in
us?
the world?
Let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, but I do. I think, I think he is.
Mhm.
I can't tell you why, but I just, I think he sort of becomes this replacement. They need another attraction.
Yeah.
Something else to latch onto.
Because they need that in this town.
Right.
And so then
That's a crazy town.
it's a crazy town because then you also have Shion over here who is basically, trying to get to the bottom of. She starts going on a killing spree, essentially, just trying to get people to confess, like, you killed
Right.
Satoshi, you're the one who did this, and, like, it's so unfair to the both of them because all they did was be born a Hojo and all this
Right.
stuff. And, she even starts, torturing the village leader, which is very
Wow.
intense. And, she even, throws Mion in a cage.
Yeah.
And then the thing that was like really shocking, the plot twist of this whole thing was when someone told her that the nails didn't distinguish Satoshi. She thought 3 nails. Okay, so it'd be for her Kazai, the bodyguard, the uncle, and Satoshi. But then she learned it was for the 2 guys and her. So Satoshi was never a part of it or in the clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which sucked,
Yeah.
you guys. That was just wild to me. Which also, I wanted to shout out
Yes.
people in the live chat. So Starcloak says, because I was like, what is your...
Starcloak.
Don't you love that name?
I do.
Starcloak has been like so loyal to
Oh my
us.
gosh, that is like a superhero name,
like-
right?
It probably is a superhero
Starcloak.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starcloak, you're famous.
I like
Okay.
that.
So Starcloak says Shion and Rika's confrontation and Rika's exit to prevent being tortured is one of their favorite moments in the arc. And then Sharka Frank says, Daryl, do you think Higurashi should have a remake or a continuation where we find out if Satoshi survived?
Oh hell yes! But I think it should continue.
Yeah.
I don't. Not a remake. I don't want anybody else to voice. my
Nothing's
character.
original anymore either.
Right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
Come on.
Right, because they're remaking a lot of stuff, right? Like
Everything nowadays
revoicing.
is a
We're doing
reboot, yeah.
redubs of stuff too.
Yeah,
Like,
live
why?
action,
It's already there.
everything. It's
But
too much.
maybe stuff that was done like long time ago, like 70s or something, or
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Because the technology was different, in terms of sound recording and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it would be amazing to continue the story of When They Cry.
Yeah.
And just to have some imagination of what happened to anyone who has survived, this whole story.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would love to know what's going on with him. I mean, you could go a whole new, if he's gone really nuts and crazy or whatever, just think of like what he could be doing out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and actually, looking back on the series, it is kind of disappointing that we don't have a series with Satoshi
Yeah.
because,
Right.
as I had mentioned earlier, he's such a big part of this series. We just don't see a whole lot of him, but we got
Yeah.
a perspective of Rika, we got a perspective
Yeah.
of Satoko and
Right.
Keiichi and Shion and Mion, but we never got one with Satoshi. And it's kind of surprising because, like, we should have. I think it would
Yeah.
have, given some insight into his world because he's kind of like the catalyst
Mm-hmm.
for how all this started.
What'd be interesting too is sort of him doing flashbacks into this whole situation. So you're still getting some of the same story, but maybe you're also getting some new clues to a lot of things that you didn't find out,
Yeah.
throughout the first, segment of it. So I think that'd be interesting to kind of get his perspective, whether it's true or not, but you would still be getting what he saw, what he felt, how he even saw his sister, his, Shion and Mion, and, I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 big things about this particular arc was the really hard to watch torture scene of Satoko, where she is trying to be strong for Satoshi, and Shion, basically realizing, I failed you, Satoshi, because you told me to take care of her and I couldn't. She just let her rage get the best of her because she so thought Satoko was the reason for all of Satoshi's misfortune.
Yeah.
So that was just really hard to watch.
Yeah, Shion was just very crazy this episode. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
She was.
She was.
Yeah.
Completely.
Just even the ending scene where she's like on the building. I'm like, but why were you there? Like, what are you doing?
How did killing or attempting to kill Kaiichi,
Right.
how was that supposed to be like your last epic plan that made it feel better?
Right.
Unless it was just the demon inside of her, which it could have very well been.
Yeah.
Who knows with that girl at this point? But the arc ends there.
This
yeah.
is one of those shows where you're like, what?
Wait, what happened?
What?
So that's kind of where the arc ends. Any final thoughts, Jamie, on viewing this? And then Daryl, any last kind of thoughts on how it was making this arc? Or like even going back and rewatching it, trying to get the in-betweens that you weren't, the
Yeah.
scenes you weren't in.
Well, I definitely liked this arc. I thought it was very entertaining as far as, you know, what happened, as gruesome as it was, but just they upped the ante here. Like they really put all the stops to shock me with the fingernail scene and with Shion going nuts, and then Satoshi, we finally get to meet him. I thought it was just very refreshing, and it was more exciting than the past couple episodes have been that we watched before.
Firstly, these are my favorite kinds of anime, actually. I love the sort of horror, mystery anime because there's so much psychological stuff going on at the same time. And for me, just kind of revisiting it after all these years, just even made me appreciate again Satoshi and his role in the show, but also, you know, I've done cons for all these years now, and you know, for some bigger parts and stuff, but I have still so many people come up for this character and like, oh my gosh, you're Satoshi. Oh my gosh, you're Satoshi. You know, so even just that for me has been great, you know, knowing that this is, because if, you know, you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, he's kind of a small character in the thing, but then it's nice after you realize, oh wow, he had a big part in this show, even though he was limited in his time in it. So
Yeah, definitely left a mark.
that's good. I like that. Got to leave a mark somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that is it for our review of the eye-opening chapter. Now, we do have some news we want to share.
Okay, you guys. So all of our anime fans, also DBZ fans. So Comic-Con is going on right now, and we're not there, but the rest of our panel, Carrie and Ollie, are there. So they're, of course, going to post a whole bunch of videos and interviews from there. But my Dragon Ball fans, the biggest Kamehameha ever was just at Comic-Con this past weekend, and it is amazing. You can check it out. Bandai tweeted it, and so did Toei Animation, so you can check it out to see this video. But it's just amazing to see all these fans dressed up in their cosplay.
That's so cool.
I was Bulma for Anime Expo, and there's a whole bunch of different bunny Bulmas out there, but it was just amazing to just be there. So, yeah.
Jamie and I secretly wish this happened at Anime Expo, so we could have been a part of it, but we understand Comic-Con is huge.
Maybe next year.
Be sure to go and follow ABTV Anime on Twitter, because we will definitely repost the link there so you can check it out.
Yeah.
Big DBZ fan, Daryl?
Yeah, I am. You know, and I also know Kylie Bear, so.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a huge, well, as you guys can see in my DBZ shirt, actually at Anime Expo, we met the designers of the shirt, so it was just amazing.
Oh, that's a great shirt.
Thank you. All kinds of Dragon Balls.
That's actually our interview with Atsuko Chloe, I believe.
Yep.
And if you tune in, we have a playlist for all of our interviews at Anime Expo on the ABTV Animation channel, so definitely go check that out. All right, now let's move into some predictions. Now, Jamie, for you, these will be predictions, and then
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
yes. So, Jamie, for you, these will be predictions, and then I've seen it, so I can't really say much. But Daryl, if there's anything like you would have really liked to explore with your character, we can talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Sorry, it's just like thinking of these predictions. Jinkies. Okay.
It's hard, too, because it's not continuous.
Yeah. Okay, so we know that Satoshi is gone. I do feel like he ran away because of guilt and that he was spirited away on his journey. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to see exactly how that happened. And I'm excited to see how it comes full circle with Kaiichi. And yeah, I'll keep it simple.
I think what really, really would have been so awesome is after Satoshi,
Satoko?
yeah,
Sataka.
sorry, my
It's
mouth
the
won't
S's.
work. Yes, my sister. How's that? After she's tortured by Shion, that he comes back.
As like a memory?
No, he comes back and finds out that the one he entrusted his sister with to protect
he would go so crazy,
Yeah.
and it would
I mean,
be like,
can you imagine
yeah.
how? Because he expected it from the aunt,
Yeah.
but he's not expecting it from someone that he's the only person he's trusting with his sister. I think that really would have been.
that would have been really interesting to see, and just
Yeah.
kind of like how
Yeah.
that affected him and just everything,
Yeah.
like the big explosion at the end of that
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
arc.
Yeah.
Dang, why did they do that?
Yeah. And then he can run away again.
And then run away again and just, until
Change your name.
Right. Exactly. Change his name.
go. I'll leave forever.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for tuning into the When They Cry After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Again, huge thank you to Daryl for
Oh,
joining us
thank
today.
you
We
guys.
really
It was so
appreciate it.
fun. You guys made it so easy. It was great.
2 questions.
Yes.
One, where can the fans find you on the internet? And then, are there any upcoming projects or events you want to talk about?
Just quickly, look for me, Daryl Gilbo Actor, on, I think, Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure if you put in my crazy name, Guilbeau, Daryl, you'll find me somewhere. Also, just some, I do have a movie. It's not animated. It's animated, but it's not anime. It's called Leo da Vinci Mission Mona Lisa. I believe it's released like October 2nd or 5th, whatever, in a few weeks. I play a crazy pirate. A couple of video games, big video games, actually coming out
Nice.
soon. I can't say what they are. So, that's about it for now.
That's exciting. I'm excited to hear them as well and see them. But I'm Jamie Gray. You can find me on Twitter at It's Jamie Gray or on Instagram at Jamie Gray, Jaimi.
I'm Veronica Valencia. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Me, Veronica_V. You can also follow the show, ABTV Anime, on Twitter at ABTV Anime. Be sure to check out our interviews from Anime Expo. They are all uploaded. And be sure to tune in next week. It's the final arc for When They Cry. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Big thank you again for Daryl for joining us.
I'll be watching.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.